They say blood is thicker than water. What they don't tell you is that sometimes blood can strangle you just as easily as it can save you. My name is James Hartley, and I come from the kind of old money Connecticut family that appears in society pages and country club directories. The kind where your last name opens doors but also builds prisons, where legacy matters more than happiness and duty is valued above love. For 28 years, I played by the rules. I went to the right schools, pursued the right career, maintained the right image. I was my grandfather's favorite, the grandson who would carry on the Hartley name with proper dignity. Then I fell in love with the wrong woman, and everything shattered. This is the story of how my grandfather used my family as hostages to force me into an arranged marriage. How I stood at an altar preparing to sacrifice my entire future to save my brother's life. And how an unexpected ally gave me back the freedom I thought I'd lost forever. This isn't a fairy tale. It's a cautionary tale about what happens when money becomes a weapon and family becomes a cage. I met Maya Rodriguez on a Tuesday afternoon that changed my life. I was volunteering with Architects Without Borders on an affordable housing project in the Bronx. She was the civil engineer assigned to our team, explaining load-bearing calculations with a passion that made structural engineering sound like poetry. She wore work boots and a hard hat, had dirt under her fingernails, and didn't care that my last name was Hartley. When I offered to take her to dinner, she suggested a taco truck instead of the upscale restaurant I'd planned. That was 2 years ago. 2 years of falling deeper in love with someone who saw me as just James, not William Hartley's grandson, not the heir to a fortune, not a networking opportunity. Just a guy who made her laugh and shared her passion for building things that mattered. We kept the relationship quiet, not because I was ashamed, but because I knew my grandfather would never approve. Maya grew up working class, put herself through city college, and had zero interest in country clubs or social climbing. My grandfather's private investigator discovered Maya 18 months into our relationship. I should have known William Hartley didn't trust anyone, including his own family. The summons came via text, my office, Tuesday, 3 p.m., don't be late. When my grandfather used that tone, you didn't ask questions. I drove to his Connecticut estate with growing dread. The mansion loomed like a monument to old money and older expectations, all white columns and perfectly manicured lawns that whispered, "You'll never be good enough." He sat behind his mahogany desk like a king on a throne, a manila folder placed precisely in front of him. Before I could sit, he slid it across the desk. Inside were surveillance photos of Maya and me, at dinner, leaving her apartment, walking in the park holding hands, every private moment cataloged and documented like evidence in a criminal case. "You're going to end this relationship immediately," he said. No greeting, no preamble, just a command from a man accustomed to absolute obedience. "Then you leave me no choice." My grandfather's voice was ice. He opened another folder. This one contained financial documents. My parents' mortgage marked past due. My sister Emma's Yale tuition bills stamped unpaid. My brother Tyler's medical records with treatment costs highlighted $15,000 monthly for cystic fibrosis care. "I've been covering all of this for years," grandfather said. "Your father made terrible investments. They're broke. Everything they have, the house, your sister's education, your brother's treatments, exists because I allow it to exist." My stomach dropped. "You'd really stop Tyler's treatments, he could die." "Then I suggest you reconsider your priorities." He slid a third folder across the desk. Inside was a photograph of a beautiful blonde woman. "Lauren Mitchell, banking family, impeccable breeding. You'll court her, marry her by Christmas, and continue this family's legacy properly, or everyone suffers the consequences of your selfishness." I stared at him, seeing a stranger. "This is extortion. This is family obligation. You have 3 months, James, choose wisely." I spent a week in denial, frantically searching for alternatives. I contacted every medical charity, researched hospital financial assistance programs, spoke with loan officers about covering Tyler's treatments independently. The math was brutal and unforgiving. Tyler's specialized cystic fibrosis care cost $180,000 annually. My parents were drowning in debt I'd never known about. Emma's Yale tuition was another $80,000 per year. Even with my architect's salary, even if I worked 3 jobs, even if I sold everything I owned, I couldn't come close to covering what my grandfather provided effortlessly. I made the mistake of telling Maya everything. We sat in her small kitchen, my head in my hands, while she held me as I broke down. "You have to do it," she said quietly, tears in her voice. "I won't let Tyler die because of me. I won't let your family suffer. That's not love, James, that's selfishness. But I love you. I know, and that's why you're going to save your brother." The first dinner with Lauren Mitchell happened at an exclusive restaurant where my grandfather had reserved a private room. He and her parents watched us like hawks evaluating livestock. I expected a spoiled socialite complicit in this arrangement. Instead, Lauren looked as miserable as I felt. Once our families were distracted with their own conversation, she leaned across the table. "I assume you're as thrilled about this as I am," she said dryly. "You don't want this either." "Want it?" She laughed bitterly. "I've spent the last year being told my only value is making an advantageous marriage. My family's broke, bad investments hidden behind good appearances. Your grandfather's bailout comes with me as the price tag." Over the next 3 months, Lauren and I formed an unexpected alliance. We were both prisoners, just in different cells. She confided she was in love with a woman named Rachel, but her family had made it clear that lifestyle meant complete disinheritance. We were 2 people forced to marry each other while loving other people. The absurdity was tragic. For 3 months, I lived in 2 worlds that were slowly destroying me. Publicly, I was Lauren Mitchell's devoted fiancé. We attended charity galas, posed for engagement announcements in society pages, and played our roles perfectly. Our families beamed with satisfaction at their successful arrangement. Privately, I continued seeing Maya in secret, hotel rooms in other cities, stolen weekends, moments that felt both precious and devastating. Every time I left her, it felt like dying a little more. Maya insisted she was fine, that she understood, that we'd find another solution. But I watched her break anyway. The forced smiles, the nights she'd cry and pretend she wasn't, the way she'd touch my face like she was memorizing it. Meanwhile, Tyler's health improved dramatically with consistent treatment. Emma thrived at Yale. My parents' financial stress evaporated. My sacrifice was working, everyone was happy. Except me, except Maya, except Lauren, who was sacrificing just as much for her own family's survival. The wedding date approached like a guillotine blade falling in slow motion. December 20th arrived like an execution date. I stood in the church sacristy, adjusting my tie with shaking hands, feeling like I was preparing for my own funeral. Maya had texted that morning, "I'll be there in the back because I need to see you one last time, even if it destroys me. I love you always." The engagement ring I'd bought her 2 months before my grandfather's ultimatum sat in my jacket pocket, a reminder of the future I'd lost. The ceremony began. I took my position at the altar, surrounded by 300 guests who thought this was a love story. My family filled the front pews, parents relieved, sister crying, brother Tyler in his wheelchair looking healthier than he had in years. This was why I was doing this, for them. The music swelled. Lauren appeared at the end of the aisle in an elaborate dress, looking beautiful and trapped. Our eyes met. I saw something in her expression I couldn't read. Determination, fear, and something else, hope. The ceremony proceeded like a dream or a nightmare. The officiant's voice droned through traditional words I barely heard. Lauren walked down the aisle. We stood facing each other at the altar, 2 actors in a play neither of us wanted to perform. Then came the moment. If anyone can show just cause why this couple cannot lawfully be joined together in matrimony, let them speak now or forever hold their peace. The church doors burst open with a bang that made everyone jump. A woman in a sharp business suit stood silhouetted in the doorway, briefcase in hand, flanked by 2 lawyers. "I object," she said clearly, her voice echoing through the church, "and I have legal documentation that proves this marriage cannot proceed." My grandfather surged to his feet, face purple with rage. "Who are you? This is a private ceremony." "I'm Andrea Chen, attorney for Lauren Mitchell, and my client has been coerced into this marriage under false pretenses." Lauren turned to face me and whispered, "I'm so sorry and you're welcome. Lauren's voice rang clear through the church. "I can't marry you, James, because I'm already married, legally married to my wife, Rachel." The church erupted in gasps, shouts. My grandfather's face turned purple. Lauren continued, steady and strong. "6 months ago, I married the woman I love in Massachusetts. We kept it secret because my family threatened to disown me. But 3 weeks ago, James and I realized we were both being manipulated by our families, both forced to sacrifice everything for money." Her attorney stepped forward. What the Mitchell family didn't know is that Lauren's late grandmother left her a trust fund that became accessible on her 25th birthday last month. Lauren is financially independent. Lauren's eyes found mine. "The first thing I did was establish a medical trust for Tyler Hartley, fully funded. 20 years of treatments guaranteed. Your parents' house paid off yesterday. Your sister's tuition covered. Everything your grandfather held over you, it's gone. You're free, James." I couldn't breathe, couldn't process, couldn't believe what I was hearing. My grandfather threatened lawsuits. He screamed about betrayal, about disgrace, about destroying everyone. But Lauren's grandmother's trust was ironclad, and her attorney had documented every instance of coercion our families had engaged in. "You're welcome to try," Attorney Chen told my grandfather coldly. "But we've already filed complaints about several of your business practices. Coercion might not be illegal, but other things we found definitely are." My grandfather disowned me on the spot. I didn't care. For the first time in 3 months, I could breathe. Lauren hugged me at the altar, both of us still in our wedding attire. "Go get her," she whispered. "Go get the woman you actually love." I ran down the aisle toward Maya, toward freedom, toward my future. When I reached her in the back row, I dropped to one knee, pulled out the ring, and asked the only question that mattered. "Maya Rodriguez, will you marry me?" She said yes before I finished speaking. 2 years have passed since that wedding day. That wasn't. Maya and I married in her family's church in the Bronx, simple, honest, surrounded by people who genuinely cared about us rather than our social connections. Lauren and Rachel were there, of course. They've become family in a way my grandfather never understood family could be. Lauren's foundation now supports LGBTQ+ youth rejected by their families, turning her own pain into purpose. Tyler's health has stabilized remarkably. The consistency of treatment Lauren's trust provided made all the difference. He's 16 now, planning for college, living a life we weren't sure he'd have. That gift, Tyler's health, is something I can never fully repay, but Lauren insists seeing us all free is payment enough. My parents and sister reconciled with me after about 6 months. They'd been so desperate to survive financially that they'd lost sight of what actually mattered. We're rebuilding our relationship slowly. It's not perfect, but it's real. They've had to face their own role in my grandfather's manipulation, and that's been painful for everyone. But truth, even painful truth, is healthier than comfortable lies. My grandfather never spoke to me again after that day. He died last year. I didn't attend the funeral, but I sent flowers with a card that read, "I hope you found peace. I finally have." I felt nothing when I heard about his death, not satisfaction, not grief, just a quiet acknowledgement that his hold over me had ended long before his life did. I left the prestigious architecture firm and started my own practice with Maya, focusing on affordable housing and community development. We're not wealthy by my family's old standards. We live in a modest apartment in Brooklyn, drive used cars, and budget carefully. But we're happy, genuinely, freely, authentically happy in a way I never was in my grandfather's world. The work we do matters. We're building homes for people who need them, creating community spaces that bring people together, using our skills to address real problems rather than just generating profit. Every project feels like purpose, not just a paycheck. Sometimes I think about that day at the altar, how close I came to making a decision that would have destroyed multiple lives, mine, Maya's, Lauren's, Rachel's, how a stranger's kindness saved me when I couldn't save myself. How the woman I was being forced to marry became the person who set me free.